last time we were together, but I've spoken to him about being more mature, that it's my job on this show to be the immature one, and his...
I've got to be the adult.
So the son has to be the adult. That seems wrong to me.
That's a lot of my childhood neuroses.
Adult.
And what am I, the weird uncle?
You're the weird uncle, yeah. We're not allowed to be left alone with. But...
All right. Well, on that strange note, let's have a look at Saturday's front pages. So, The Telegraph is going with migrants taken off barge in Legionella scare. The Times has students to start terming hotels or bunk beds, broken Britain there. The Express, doctors are striking to bring down Tories. The Daily Mail, trans row over women's wards. The Guardian has asylum barge evacuated as deadly bacteria found. And finally, the Daily Star, rise of the Sani-psychos, which I believe is a story about sandwiches. And those are your front pages. So let's look at the Telegraph, Lewis, and that story about the barge.
Well, migrants taken off barge in Legionella scare. Home vessel branded home office branded incompetent vessel may be uninhabitable for weeks because probably the internal water system is broken. Legionella, I remember Legionnaires. I'm old enough to remember.
Legionella?
It's called Legionella now.
It was Suella.
It was called...
You were a Legionnaire.
They actually changed the name. They came up with this name called Legionnaire's disease because there was a hotel in Philadelphia. They were having some trade thing. This is when I was like your age. I was your age. And 1977. And the air ducts got polluted, and the air was really bad, and so that's what this is like. And then they changed the name Legionella to make it sound like salmonella. It does kill people, but probably just in huge doses.
Okay. Well, it's obviously a bit of a pretty serious mistake, Jonathan. Although I always wonder, like, the glee of some of the sort of left-wing newspapers about this kind of thing. I mean, as if they are just going to live on some separate island. We all need to tackle this.
For sure.
Issue. Obviously, this is not the way to do it.
No, absolutely. And, like, your politics aside, whatever your view is on immigration and all the things that come along with it, it's just the most terribly dealt with thing the government does. It's so poorly managed, the migrant crisis. It's a catastrophe. Like, there doesn't seem to be there's certainly no sort of easy solution, and whenever every solution that gets brought up, it just leads to another bunch of unforeseen consequences like this. It's just not a simple thing, and it's just not dealt with well, in my humble opinion.
Do we understand how this disease was missed, though, apart from Lewis's explanation of the etymology of the name? I
didn't see how the disease... And can I just say something? I think Jonathan... I'm so proud of him. I mean, he's such a lovely boy, except when you're outside of your mother's influences. But
she's
don't leave her alone. Don't mention her. Don't try to say something.
Kick me out.
Don't try.
This is turned to a sitcom. Should we talk about this terrible story about bacteria?
We're talking. It's about bacteria. They probably didn't clean the ship that much. They would have probably they checked it because they're looking for things to find bad about this. As I said last night, Nick, this is not even a non-story. It is not a story. The fact is we've got an immigration problem with this country. The country is not dealing with it properly. They haven't made a decision to deal with it properly. So as long as they don't make a decision to deal with it, it's not a story anymore. We should not be reporting anything to do with this.
OK, well, no one was hurt. So in that sense, it's sort of a non-story. And tragedy was avoided. Do you want to look then instead at this oil boiler ban that's been thrown into doubt? So basically, as far as I can see, the Tories are sort of saying, oh, we don't want to do net zero anymore. We don't want to bring in heat pumps anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, well, the thing about these heat pumps is you have to be on the national grid to operate them because they're run by electricity. And they're I think heat pumps, I've heard, are very good in certain variable type climates where they actually squeeze the air. And by squeezing the air, you create heat, and then when you release, it's kind of like a reverse refrigerator, if you're familiar with that.
I'm not, but I'm more confused than ever. I mean, you think they're quite... Because I read an article on the BBC, of all places, and even they were totally against heat pumps. They weren't against it, but they had to admit in the article they don't really work, they're cold, they're expensive, they're just impractical in all ways.
Well, like a lot of
You're saying in certain climates they could work, but not in ours.
Not in ours. It's similar to... I think so. It's similar to they have in, like, these really dry climates, they've got these evaporative coolers where they put a fan over water.
Okay.
Right? And it cools the air.
I see.
And that works
Well, just to bring it back to this, what it is, Jonathan, it's that there was going to be a ban on installing oil boilers from 2026, and now the Tories are just walking it back because they've realised it's an election loser.
Well, they're saying it's only a proposal, which is basically the political equivalent of saying it's just a prank, bro. It's just like it's a real kind of they're not committing to it. And like with a lot of these net zero policies, they might have the best of intentions, but in reality, they don't pan out how they expect.
We were just chatting. Things change.
Yeah.
People grow. Yeah, right. They're rolling back.
But they do mention the term off the grid, which means something different in America than it does here.
Yeah.
Here,
that means you have a lot of dry food and weaponry.
Yeah, it could be dangerous. But they said that especially in the Tory constituencies, because they're quite leafy out there, is that there are lots of these. They have lots of homes of people who are not attached to the national grid, which is the electrical system. So they can't plug in these heat pumps, so they have to rely on oil.
OK. All right, well, let's have a look at the Times, Jonathan.
Yeah, students to start term in hotels or bunk beds. So students face a battle for housing, with universities refusing to guarantee accommodation, offering them rooms in different cities. Now, what a lot of the universities are doing, apparently, is only guaranteeing accommodation for people who went to that university as their first choice. That's really quite a funny... That's a move. Yeah. That's a real
Basically,
move right
commit to us now, or you might not have a bed. Right?
Yeah, oh, you tried to go to Cambridge, sleep on the street. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. Well, I don't see anything wrong with that, because
it's kind of American, isn't it? It's free market.
Yeah, it's like saying you don't want to come here, we're not going to find your house. You really want to come here, we'll find your house. But this story is also I hate to say it, it's a non-story, because I did a little Google search, and last year they actually printed the exact same story. When I was here, I remember this story, and in 2017, when we weren't on the air, they actually had every single year they come up with this. This is
like an NHS winter crisis story.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. What are you going to call that? It's like anyway, and the point is, it's in the Times, and the Times is looking for every possible excuse to get people to build stuff on our green and pleasant land. This is just one more excuse. Oh, we need more student housing.
OK, fair enough. Well, we seem to have dealt with that. I wonder if there's like a staggered thing, like you put them first choice, you get a bed, second choice, just a bunk bed, third choice is a hostel.
You get on clearing, you're just in a tent, essentially.
Yeah, clearing's in a tent. All right, let's have a look at the Express, Lewis.
Oh, this is another one. Doctors are striking to bring down the Tories, and basically the doctors said, we're not going to go on strike against Scotland, because Scotland is the kind of people that we can deal with, right? And they're going to go on strike against the English system, because they want 35%, and they want to, and according to the Tories, they want to bring down the Tories. The truth is, and you know my feeling about this, I've said it so many millions of times, I shouldn't be that serious about it, but and as somebody who uses the medical system tremendously, it looks like I don't, because I look so amazing, I look so healthy.
That's because you use it so much. You're there every day.
You know what, I'm there. I got tested.
Got a lot of work
Botox.
done.
I got tested every day, and I just got latest results in, and my CRP...
He's only 22.
Thank you, son. My C-reactive protein is 1.
Wow, I never thought I'd hear that on national TV. My C-reactive protein
and
is
my
1.
ferritin levels, not ferrets.
That clip will go viral, I feel. So what do you think, Jonathan? Steve Barclay, Health Secretary, has said that the mask has slipped because they've revealed that this is just political. They can work with Scotland, but not England. What's going on?
Well, I think with strikes that are done from a political perspective, I think it's a very different thing when it's a health. It's the health departments and health industry, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be suffering because of this, and missed appointments and things that are, especially over the last few years, we've had such a delay to so many people getting the care they need. This kind of seems a bit cynical to do it from a political perspective. But then again, people should be paid good wages. I don't know. It's complex.
No, it isn't that complex. And I think at the end of the day, what the most important thing is we need to take care of ourselves. You're young and you've started to take care of yourself. Okay? Yeah. And in Israel, doctors want to strike. Okay. Exactly, doctors want to strike.
Family conflict, but we have to have a quick look at the Star, Jonathan. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is a sort of very, very heavy, serious story. Rise of the Sani-psychos. Deviants take libertines with lunchtime filling. So someone in an office in a national newspaper has decided that the front page should be a story about people putting baked beans in a sandwich, which is, it's a sign of the times. It's the end of days. But at the same time...
Yeah, I was struggling with this, because I sometimes go online when we don't have the full story yet. I go online to get the sort of richness of the Daily Star stories. With this one, I wasn't able to find it. What is it? It's filthy beasts filling sandwiches with beans. Isn't that normal, a baked bean sandwich? That's kind of normal.
Not in the South, Nick.
Not in the South.
No,
that's what this is. This is a southern thing. Yeah. Do you have that, Lewis, in the Catskills in the 40s?
No, we don't have beans. America doesn't have beans because we're a prosperous, rich country, or we used to be. So you didn't have beans. But this is, I find this shocking, really, because it's the idea of an open, flat-faced bean beans on toast
Beans in a
is
pasty.
okay.
That's okay.
But you take the 2 slices of beans and it's somehow...
Together, yeah. I actually can't remember if we had that. I just assume we probably did. Isn't that probably like a Greg's main best-selling dish or something?
Like a pot noodle butty or something like that.
Yeah, I used to have, when I was younger, I used to have butter sandwiches. It was just
butter?
white bread with butter.
You grew up in
That
the
was
Dust
it.
Bowl of America.
It was a tough time. It was a different time, guys.
My father, when they were so poor back in the day, I guess, he used to have onion sandwiches where he used to chop up like whole white onions and with butter and bread.
Wow.
And
the 20s were tough, guys.
And then, and then can I just say as a
very
footnote,
quick.
he got diabetes and died. My father died young.
His C-reactives weren't in place. So that's it for part 1. But coming up, Oxford Street is dying, Harry Kane is leaving, and Hunter Biden is sweating. See you in 2 minutes.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel,
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Monday to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still here with Lewis Schaefer and the legacy of one drunken night. It's young Jonathan Cogan, his son. And Lewis wants me to point out he's also won the award for most Ofcom complaints.
I'm an award winner.
But you're not even in the latest raft of complaints, Lewis, so you're falling behind, mate. But tonight we'll do our very best. So let's do the Telegraph now. And the first they came for Northern Ireland with a data breach, and I said nothing. But now they're coming for my people in Cumbria, Lewis.
Yes, well, that's interesting, because names and salaries of Cumbria police staff leaked in data breach. And quite interesting, I actually thought data breach was, I thought that Cumbria is a place in Italy. I didn't know.
Cumbria. Cumbria.
And
it's my home. You can see Lewis takes a strong interest in his college.
I don't care. I've actually been there. Name a place. I've been there. It's Preston in Cumbria.
It's
no, that's Lancashire.
Very near. Yeah, that's where we used to go. We used to go to Preston when we wanted to go to a shop.
Where is Cumbria? Cumbria is that Whitehaven in Cumbria.
It is. Well done.
Is Whitehaven? Is Fleetwood?
Let's just list places in Cumbria.
Yeah.
That'll be great TV.
I think it would be great TV because these
people... It would be for Cumbria.
You want to know something? If we could list lots of... No one cares about these news.
You're right. And they just want to hear their place named on telly.
Do you want to know something? There's a whole breed of comedians that do this. They're like, the only two is they go to a town.
Anyone in from Slough? Yeah, all right. Well, should we do the story, which is the names and salaries of Cumbria police staff leaked in data breach? And it's another data breach. Not as bad as the Northern Ireland one, but still a breach.
And what I find very interesting is that shouldn't we know who's being paid on the public payroll? Shouldn't we know who's on the public payroll? Shouldn't we know? Don't we have a right to know?
Should we know their addresses? That's the
No, their addresses weren't listed.
No, but go on, John.
This is definitely the funniest data to leak, because it's not their addresses, it's just their name and how much they get paid. That's quite a lot of fun.
I want to see that at GB. Can we get that data breach?
You guys
so
get
I can
paid?
check what you lot are all on. Yeah, because I suspect Lewis might be overpaid. But I love that it's Cumbria, so the breach was
I'm
still
holding
low.
on to your money, Jonathan.
Yeah? OK.
I did a bunch of adverts when I was a kid. And I'm going to get emancipated. That's what's going to happen.
I think we've done our best with the Cumbria breach story, to be honest. I don't know we're getting loads more out of that. Really. We're all geniuses, but no one's that amazing. So let's have a look at the Mail instead. And Oxford Street is in decline. Now, let's hope it doesn't completely collapse, because I really need a cigarette lighter in the colours of the Union Jack, Jonathan.
I think you can actually buy them on the GBNews website, if I'm not mistaken.
But those shops, you know what I mean? In
Oxford Street. Of course. Every shop is
Because in the north, they're not getting this. There's shops in Oxford Street, it's just Union Jack, like hats, lighters, little flags, and that's all they sell. Like, how have you been in business for 20 years? You've never sold anything. It's a bit suspicious.
Because it's a front.
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it. You said it. There was
an old comedian who used to have a joke exactly like that. He used to say, how do we do it? Volume.
Volume, yeah, exactly.
Just sell so much of it.
Right, so the headline is, Marks and Spencer...
Let's see the headline, Jonathan. They're telling me off in the thing. Go on.
OK, well, we can find out how much they get paid in the leak. Right, so Marks and Spencer executive warns demise of Oxford Street is fueling crime, including US-style flash mob looting. Director says that something must be done to save the jewel in London shopping crown as TikTok-inspired chaos moves to Southend. That is a nice abridged headline there. So... what's happened is a bunch of, I guess, young people have got together and done a bit of a flash mob. I think there's been a bit of looting and it's been chaos. Now, what this reflects is the death of the high street. According to Sasha Berendi, the chain's M&S's operations director, so he basically says that the jewel in London's shopping crown is now gone and it's now empty shops, littered streets and fewer visitors. And he also said it is just... tacky sweet shops.
Yes, as we said. I mean, they also mentioned Mizzy. I feel a bit bad for Mizzy. He follows me on Twitter, by the way. I feel like they're sort of always trying to pin everything on Mizzy, like he's Godzilla terrorising Oxford. He's just one kid, you know what I mean? But really, it's about the general decline, isn't it, Lewis? I mean, it's the internet, of course. It's the general decline of the economy. It's lockdowns. I don't know. What is it? I mean, it feels like the only thing that's not declining in this country is Lewis Schaefer.
Yeah, no, I'm right. Thank you very much. I got to say such a nice word. Well, you know what? I live in Peckham. And don't follow me home. Basically, Peckham.
We found out in a data breach where you live.
Peckham. And Peckham used to be the third largest shopping district in all of London. Wow. Third, after Oxford Street and some other street, and then Peckham. And
was
then,
it market? Was it like proper market?
They had all sorts of huge Art Deco buildings there, very much like Oxford Street. Things go up and they go down. I think at the end of the day, oh my God, I hate that saying. But I think when all is said and done, I'll use that boring cliche.
How long is a piece of string?
Is that over time, people, they want to go to new areas. They want to go to trendy Hoxton, or they want to go to the King's Road back in the 70s. Whatever, they go to different areas.
Well, I think it's the decline of everything and crime and economic collapse and chaos. But we disagree on that. Let's do the Independent. And Harry Kane has left Tottenham because he selfishly wants to actually win something. So let's go to our football expert, American comedian Lewis Schaefer.
Well, you'd be surprised how much that I know. I actually appeared on Eagles Radio, which is Crystal Palace at one time.
Okay.
So that was a couple of years ago. But I actually know something about this because Harry Kane arrived. He flew to Germany to go to Bayern Munich move because basically he's a free agent. He can go anywhere. And I'll tell you something about Tottenham. I support Tottenham. Historically.
They're my team.
It's my team. It's one of the many teams that I support.
You identify with the losing.
Yes, they remind me of the New York Mets. I was a Mets fan, and we had the Yankees. The Yankees were always winning, and that's what Tottenham is. They're a bunch of losers. And I mean that in a really nice way. And I think Harry Kane, who's a lovely guy, he wants to make more money. Is there anything wrong with that? This is America.
Yes, well, it's not America, but it's Harry Kane going from Tottenham. Are you a football fan, Jonathan?
Absolutely not. I read books.
Brilliant. Okay. So we've got, at least I know about football. I'm just going to do a monologue on this. Basically, he was never going to win anything at Tottenham, so he's finally gone to Bayern. And
Mourinho's made some class signings there.
Who?
Mourinho.
Mourinho. Really? You're still talking about... Okay.
I don't know, he is.
Is he still there?
I think so.
He's got 100 million, which is not bad. And I'm still looking at the Oxford Street story, but he's got 100 million. And, he's going to actually finally win something. He can win a cup on Saturday, actually. He can already win a cup. He can win some German leagues as well, which don't matter to anyone. But he could actually potentially win the Champions League. So that is a big deal.
Yeah, he'll be in the Champions League. I think they've dropped out of the Champions League, Tottenham. Let him go. He was there. He gave his all during the entire time. He's not a good-looking man. He only has football.
He's on steroids.
How dare you?
Nothing personal.
I'm going to give balance on that. Broadcast regulations. Perfectly good-looking. And also, I don't mind players staying at one club, by the way. The great Matt Letizia, one of the great geniuses in football history. He was at Southampton his entire career.
Yeah.
You guys really
Chelsea of the South.
This is ridiculous. We're actually going to have to move on.
Well, there's a reason why... Can I just interrupt you?
Yes, you can.
There's a reason why nobody heard of Matt Letizia. I never heard of him.
Everybody's heard of him. He's one of the most famous footballers in the country.
No, he isn't. If I haven't heard of him and I know football...
Ruud Gullit?
I know he can, Matt
Letizia is one of the most famous footballers of all time, and he also appears on this channel.
Zola.
Let's do the Times then, because that was such a disaster. And world oil demand has hit a record high. Just Stop Oil had one job, Jonathan.
Emmanuel Petit, that's another one. World oil demand hits record high, says International Energy Agency. So oil demand hit an all-time high in June as holidaymakers took to the skies and China used more than expected. So the International Energy Agency, as we all know them, the IEA, said that the demand reached 103 million barrels per day in June, exceeding the previous record of 102.4 million barrels per day before the pandemic. There's a huge demand for oil as ever, and it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. And China is using so much that all of our efforts to cut down would seem like a drop in the ocean comparatively, as I understand from this article.
Yeah, as you understand.
Say that's right?
Yeah, apparently I found out that ESG, this obsession with ESG, has kind of nullified oil investments. And I actually got that from Leo, because I've got no clue about this story. That's how desperate I am. What do you think?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. They don't want us to use oil, but oil is the greatest thing that has made our lives so much better.
We use 100 million barrels a day.
Exactly. 100 million. You know how much oil that is? That's 100 million barrels. That's a lot of oil every single day. If it's 100 million barrels, you'd think for a year. But people use oil. It makes people nice and warm. They're able to watch Louis Schaefer and my beautiful son Jonathan at home in the comfort of their home. They're able to have things made of plastic and send a message to me via Twitter at Louis Schaefer.
I want to, I want to give balance, but I'm just so pro oil as well. We just love oil here. Just three guys that love oil.
Well, you got to say. This is what you have to say. You got to say that oil is raising the CO2, and CO2 has been linked to global warming and climate change, and so we need to stop using oil, and then we got to use renewable.
Yeah, that would be the balance. And just to be really boring,
just run the grid on gold power.
To be factual, apparently U.S. reserves are at an all-time low, so there's a risk of spikes. But if you've invested in pensions in oil, if you're British and you've got like investments, then it's good for you. That's a bit of fact because we didn't really do the facts. Let's do the Times. This is a really interesting one. And Hunter Biden is finally going to be investigated for his business dealings, and I, for one, am sure they'll find nothing untoward, Lewis. Although they actually might not, because people are saying it's all a scam. But go on.
Well, you know something. I don't believe anything anybody ever says, but I actually believe that Hunter Biden is a very bad man, and I think his father's a very bad man. I shouldn't say this. I should be. You might come in and say, I don't know, that Joe Biden. They've decided.
Disappeared, Lewis.
They've decided after all. Please don't interrupt me.
Sorry, baby. Don't hit me again.
I never hit you.
You hit me with a belt yesterday.
So anyway,
I'll get there. Hunter Biden, who's the son of Joe Biden, and they want the special counsel, and they got this guy David Weiss, who's a U.S. attorney in Delaware. Delaware is Joe Biden's home state, and he's got that state so it's almost it's the most corrupt, crooked place, supposedly. I don't know for sure. I'm just a guy, but they have him and Merrick Garland, who's the Attorney General. He appointed, but he didn't appoint anybody when it came to.
And there's a controversy because Weiss has to report to Garland and ultimately has to report to Biden because he's not... What the Conservatives are saying on Fox and things like people like Andy McCarthy is, look, you have to get someone from outside of the government. You can't just get someone who's within the Biden Justice Department, this Vice guy. And they're saying they've already had this investigation for 5 years. They're trying to run down the statute of limitations. There was this 21 million in 2014 and 15. That's kind of like past now. He's got away with that. And it's just, the right has a lot of questions about it. Ted Cruz points out there's this thing in Ukraine, I don't know if you saw that, where Joe Biden basically boasted about forcing them to get rid of the prosecutor, sack him, and holding on to $1 billion in loans. And then the point is, on the right, they're saying this is not really a real investigation and it won't go anywhere because this guy, Weiss, is on there.
Kangaroo court.
Basically, well, no, that's a slightly different term that means something else. But that's what I know. What do you think, Jonathan? Any take on it?
Well, I was interested to hear that this investigation's been going on for 5 years. And has this story breached the public consciousness up until now, or is it only just coming out? Because if it's been going on for that long, I feel like it would have been in the American people's interest to know.
It would have been good to know, wouldn't it? But famously, it was suppressed as we all know, in the run-up to the election. Zuckerberg admitted it. The New York Post was even censored, wasn't it, on Twitter?
It was taken off of Twitter.
And it was proved to be a real story. And that was just the Hunter Biden laptop. That wasn't even the business dealings. That was just the general
I think
dealings.
this is going to get dealt with the same way that pile of cocaine found in the White House is going to get dealt with.
What, we're just hoover it up.
Yeah, hoover it up.
Well, what they'll do is...
Forgotten.
Well, I mean, the election's coming up. When is the election coming up? Next year. So, basically, they're gonna delay this and delay this and delay this.
Well, I've always said, to be very neutral, that the Biden administration is the end of America. It's totally corrupt. You dodgy investigations. Meanwhile, you put your opponent in jail. And that's my position. It's not necessarily the position of GB News or anyone, but that is my view. So that's it for part 2. But coming up, Musk versus Zucks, annoying Americans, not this one, and the obligatory trans stories. See you in a minute.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. I'm Greg Dewhurst, and looking at the weekend, could be summarised by sunshine and scattered showers, particularly heavy on Saturday. And looking at the bigger picture, we can see why this area of low pressure moves in for the weekend, increasing the wind strengths, increasing the risk of showers across the north and the west in particular. Out there through the rest of Friday evening, not too bad. There'll be some clear spells before dusk, and then overnight we'll see some outbreaks of rain pushing in across parts of Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, which could be heavy at times. Temperatures generally a little lower than recent nights, so a little more comfortable for sleeping, but still 14 or 15 for many to start Saturday morning. Better the sunshine first thing across eastern parts of England, northeast Scotland. But these bands of rain slowly push their way eastwards through the day as the area of low pressure pushes in from the Atlantic. Some of this rain could be heavy and perhaps thundery at times across northern England, but there will be some sunny spells in between, and that will lift temperatures to around 23 degrees towards the southeast. Breezier conditions towards the northwest here, 20 or 21 as a maximum temperature. Into Sunday, low pressure still in charge. The winds do ease and there will be less showers around, but fairly cloudy picture. Some bright or sunny spells, a scattering of showers, and temperatures once again reaching the high teens to low 20s. Into the beginning of next week, it stays unsettled. Further rain on Monday, but signs of something drier and brighter by Tuesday.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think. Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into it with the Daily Mail and a story about a force of nature. And I don't mean Lewis, Jonathan.
I'd say he's more of a force of nurture.
Nice.
Oh.
We don't know what that was. That was a chair.
Yeah. The joke was so fine, I had to go to a chair. Right, OK, cool, we're back. We're back, baby. This is live television. Just about. So, yes, the headline is, a new force of nature. Scientists close in on a fifth force as they discover a mysterious subatomic particle disobeying the laws of physics. It turns out it's love. Love was the fifth force. But love is dead. The death of love has happened. So scientists are closing in on identifying a new force of nature after observing the particular wobble of a subatomic particle. So I'll do some quick science just to explain it.
Yeah, I just realised I was relying on you to explain physics.
Yeah.
So we're in a lot of trouble, but go on.
Well, I messaged Stephen Allen, but he's getting hammered in Edinburgh, so...
I thought you were going to say Stephen Hawking. That's who you need.
Yeah. Yeah, he's deceased. So the experts whizzed tiny muons, which are similar to electrons, through a 50-foot diameter ring. That's what your ring is, don't know. The US Energy Department's Fermi Lab in Batavia, Illinois.
Just quickly, I'm being asked to apologise that we booked you on the show. Yeah. No one mentioned the language.
No one booked me, I just turned up. Basically, some science stuff happened. It's super interesting because it turns out there's a new force, but as we all know, everything is just a construct of consciousness. Forces don't exist. They are mental constructs. We are all living in God's mind, and you can experience it if you meditate hard enough.
Yeah, that's not the article, but that's interesting. Yeah, but it is sort of the article because the results hint at a new property of space-time or a violation of the Lorentz invariant, a principle stating that the laws of physics are the same everywhere. And I've always said Lorentz needs to be debunked. He's had his time. He's hosting. He's a hack, that Lorentz. What do you think, Lewis?
I think that physicists haven't figured out the first four laws of nature, and anything these guys come up with is completely made up. There's no such thing as a muon or anything like this. It's all electricity, and there's only one word which they know, which is Velikovsky.
Interesting. What does that? Well, we have to move on, but I also want to know what you meant.
What I mean is that imagine you have two magnets. I'll do quick. You have two magnets, right? And you push them together, and you actually think, oh my God, there's something going. There's something in there. Now imagine if that little space was wrapped in something.
Right.
Okay, you would think, oh my God, there's something in there.
Yeah.
When the only thing that's in there is electromagnetism.
Wow.
Wow. And that's what the universe is. It looks like we exist exist. We do exist, but
No,
we don't really exist. But we're just we're just like bits and bits and bits.
We're just vibrating
of
consciousness.
magnetism and electromagnetism.
Okay, this is amazing for the late night viewers. Weird for the early morning viewers trying to go get ready for work. But all right, we're learning a lot from Dr. Lewis Schaefer. So let's do the Telegraph. And Elon Musk will fight Mark Zuckerberg in an ancient Roman setting. It's apparently said to look even older than the design of the X logo, Lewis.
Well, I've been to some McDonald's there, and they're really ancient. The McDonald's in I don't know whether you know this. I made that up. But Elon Musk to fight Mark Zuckerberg, an ancient Roman setting. They haven't announced what it is. Elon Musk is the guy from Twitter and SpaceX and Tesla. Okay, incredible. And Mark Zuckerberg is the guy from Marrying a Really Cute Chinese Girl. And at least in my mind, that's how I know him. But basically, Mark Zuckerberg is so unlikable. He decided to become likable by wrestling other people, fighting other people. And Elon Musk has offered like some kind of battle between the two of them. But Zuckerberg has already lost because his Threads, which was the replacement for Twitter, is competitor is now been like basically punched out.
Rubbish, yeah, because it's woke. No one cares.
No one cares.
And the actual fight itself, Jonathan, Musk is much bigger, but he is a lot older. He's done a bit of judo as a kid, but he said he was training, he was so busy, he's just bringing weights to work and lifting them while at work. Meanwhile, Zuckerberg has been training hardcore MMA for like 5 years. On paper, should annihilate him, but then again, Musk's a lot bigger and a bit richer. I don't know. Maybe he can use weapons like Iron Man.
It's like it's a robot versus alien showdown. I'm quite excited to see who wins that.
If you had money, who would it be on?
If I had money. No, if I had money, it would be on... I think Elon Musk is going to pull some mad stuff out the bag. Just like, he's actually like the 10th Dan karate guy that we didn't know about.
Because Andrew Antrist and Tate have offered to train him. If they trained him and he took it seriously for 6 months, he should win because he's much bigger. But he's not taking it seriously. He's carrying weights to work and messing about. Wouldn't you take it seriously? If you were going to be in a cage match in Italy, in front of the world, like 2 billionaires, wouldn't you take it very seriously?
I'm going to tell you why he's not taking it seriously. And I know the people out there are waiting for my opinion of who would win this thing. I think Zuckerberg will win. Zuckerberg, because he's got nothing in his life, really. He's one of those people, he has to win. And even when he loses, he has to win. While Elon Musk can admit, you know what, I spent $44 billion. The thing is worth $10 billion, you know. And he can laugh about it. That's what Musk is thinking. Musk is thinking, so I lost the thing. But my Twitter is doing so much better than that guy's Threads.
Yeah, Musk even used a Latin phrase that translates as, it is delightful to play the fool occasionally. So he is seeing this as like a sort of clownish thing. Maybe, but that's not that funny when you're getting punched in the face by a billionaire.
Well, they said it might
you just have to raise your hand, I think.
You tap out.
Well, they said it might not even be a fight, and they might make it a, like a question of history. Yeah. And so they might do it in Latin, which would make it more interesting, apparently. I think that would make it less interesting.
OK. Yeah. All right, well, let's do the Times now. I think we've skipped one. Let's do one with this one in the Times, with a story about a drink so unhealthy, it's even going to be banned in Scotland, Lewis.
Oh, OK. This is this thing. It's called in the Times. They ban young children from buying slushies, advise food regulators. Slushies are those horribly coloured things that are in those things. And basically because they got this thing called glycerol, which is the exact same thing that they spray on at airplanes to demist them. So you're basically drinking...
Scottish people drink that.
Yeah, I could see them drink anything. But you know what? They need it. It's so cold up there. They need to be kept warm. And they're saying it's bad for children. But anything that color, anything that's made of, you know me, anything that's made of plants is bad. Anything that's not natural food, anything that's not an animal.
I agree. This is good. You know, this is protecting children. As a child, I was one panda pop away from being a special needs child. It was really quite dangerous.
Yeah, because you already have ADHD. So the idea of you know, with a slush puppy, I don't want to attack the ADHD community, but I've seen you try and focus for anything like more than 30-ish seconds.
It's sort of out, aren't you? Just voices telling me to just kill everyone.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, we're not on national TV. All right, well, let's have a quick look at the Telegraph then. And the Army have featured a biological man in the Women in Leadership event. And I believe the phrase is, the patriarchy's back, baby, Jonathan.
Women are going from strength to strength. So the Army faces backlash after trans soldier featured on panel at Women in Leadership event. So Warrant Officer Class 2 Deborah Penny, who was the first transgender soldier on the front line, took part in a discussion on lived experience of women in the forces during the event at Sandhurst this week. So Deborah was a very established soldier, had served in Northern Ireland, Iraq and Afghanistan in a career spanning more than 40 years. So obviously a very accomplished soldier, had a lot of experience in the army, but is now speaking on a panel about women's experience in the army, and that has got women's rights campaigners up in arms and saying that that has taken the opportunity away from a woman, a traditional woman in the army. Yeah,
it's absurd. I mean, to be fair, this is the only way a white man can get into the army now, especially if you look at the RAF. But I mean, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, he trained as a commander in 1986. I read when you couldn't have applied as a woman, so you can get in as a man, then switch as a woman. Lord Dannett, former head of the army, said that this bizarre thing. He said they've tried to be as progressive and inclusive as they can. Well, that's clear by having someone who's transitioned to being a woman. I think that's a good way of reflecting all dimensions of the female point of view. What a load of absolute nonsense. Whereas Helen Joyce has just said he came into the army as a man and did things that women can't do. Yeah. And it's enormously offensive to women as they can't do this stuff. They can't do the same thing.
So it'd be different if it was a trans woman who joined the army. The trans woman had all their experiences and was speaking then. But this is somebody who wasn't at the time.
Was a man for most of the time. I don't know. What do you think, Lewis?
I tell you, this station's all trans all the time. It's like just obsessed with the trans thing, and it is. You know, I remember trans people. Well, I don't remember trans people. There were no trans people when I was growing up. There were transvestites, and maybe they wanted to be trans, but they didn't have the surgery. It wasn't as, and they were. And I remember these people, the corner of Christopher Street and 7th Avenue South, getting to huge knockdown, drag-out fights in front of the stone wall.
OK.
OK.
All right, well, we've got to go to the break, but that's it for part 3. But coming up in the final section, deadly mushrooms, equally deadly crocodiles, and vampire children. Journalism at its finest. See you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's have a look at the Metro. And the remains of a vampire child have been found in Poland. You don't get this on Newsnight, do you? Too important, Jonathan.
No, but like Newsnight, it sucks. It's a vampire joke. Pretty good. So, remains of vampire child found in Poland. Researchers discovered the skeleton of an individual between 5 and 7 years old, lying face down and padlocked to the earth by the ankles. Precautions thought to have been put in place by superstitious families to ensure their relatives could not return from the dead. So this is kind of spooky, this story. It's all to do with a child who sadly died and then was buried and locked because they were worried about it rising from the dead. That's quite an extreme position to take, I think, wouldn't you say?
Well, first of all, you've never been a parent, and you don't know what it's like to actually. I mean, you were the little bit that I saw you growing up, but you were a delightful child. But you
had me on a leash.
But your half sister was not. Anyway,
yeah, but she's hot.
Here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say is that this is something that happened in Poland in the 1700s. They're primitive. My people, we come from Poland, and we didn't trust those people. They're primitive. Am I bad-mouthing the Polish people? I'm just saying, back in the day.
That's what they're like. Well, this is like the start of some horror film. You open a vampire child coffin. It's terrifying. It's really quite unsettling.
OK, well, should we move on and do this one in the Times, which is very important, about crocodiles. Apparently, crocodiles react very quickly to the cries of a baby, which is why they make such good babysitters, Lewis.
Yeah, well, crocodiles snap into action when they hear a human baby. Of course, you know, because they're thinking, this is food. That sounds delicious. It's like food size for them, a baby. Maybe that's why they say. And also babies, because babies are delicious. And second, who doesn't get upset when they hear a baby crying? So, I mean,
so you think the crocodile's just getting irritated by the baby?
I think basically it's the most irritating sound.
They're that
in the
highly
entire
evolved
world.
eating our children. It's brutal.
Yeah, and the other side of it is this is in the Times, and they don't tell you where this research is done. They're always missing out some information. There's who, what, when, where, how in these stories. They should just cover the bases. Where was this? Did you check where this was made, Nick?
Where this was what?
Where the research was done.
It comes from the University of Lyon. So they're the experts on crocodiles.
But these are Nile crocodiles. Were these Nile crocodiles in Lyon?
I don't actually know that. But the point is...
They didn't say that.
Is that crucial, the geography of the crocodile? The point is they're trying to decide if the crocodile is responding to the cries because it wants to eat them.
Yeah.
Or if it actually is a nurturing...
No, there's no... It's from the lizard-brain crocodile. There's no nurturing there. Apparently the babies were recorded while crying at bath time or at home being given a vaccination jab. So these are right-wing babies, obviously, because they didn't want to get vaccinated. That's what we've learned.
OK, well, I'm trying to think of some joke about crocodile tears, but I don't even have it, so that's all we got on that. It's a pretty huge story. Let's do the Times then. And the only thing worse than having to sit through the proms is not being able to hear the proms due to noisy snacks. What are you doing? He's got noisy snacks, guys. He's bought a prop. When did you become a prop comic, Jonathan?
They were given to me at Broken Kuto. The prom's performance is interrupted by rows over noisy snacks.
We can't hear you.
I actually ate a noisy snack the other night, if you know what... No. So high passion, shrill voices, and hints of violence are expected during a night of the opera, but usually on stage. Basically, it all kicked off. Some fat American, as it says in the story, was eating popcorn.
It didn't say fat American.
Well, you've got to assume. And then some fat American was eating popcorn in the audience, and then it all kicked off. There was a massive fight in the opera, and as a highly sensitive person like Nick and I are, we know how irritating sounds can be. And also, I gave you stress with my chewing gum earlier.
But even the person
very obnoxiously very near my ear. Go on, Lewis.
But the person who was reporting this didn't say that the Americans had done anything wrong. It was really quite unusual. It said basically the person who was pointing out that the Americans were eating, and the Americans thought they were in the right because they were handing out popcorn during the show while the show was going on. So the Americans weren't
it's how
bad.
you eat it. It's your intention.
There's no way to eat popcorn properly.
I suck it.
And it's a death food. It's the kind of thing that gets in your teeth, and basically you got to go to the dentist. And the other thing is it's a highly diabetic food.
Yeah, I think I'd be incredibly annoyed if someone was doing this at the prom. I mean, I wouldn't be at the prom.
I'd be annoyed if I was at the opera, yeah.
I'm from the north. I'm from a state school. We don't go to the proms.
You're eating
but in the
slush puppy
cinema,
sandwiches.
I can't even go to the cinema anymore because people are just so annoyed. I went to the cinema and it was in Wood Green. And someone was eating an entire meal, like a KFC, like full chicken meal. Then he took a phone call. I'm like, why are you in the cinema? There's so many other places you could be.
Because they're fantastically comfortable seats. Basically.
At your age, is that the main concern, Lewis? Just somewhere quiet to sit down.
Yeah, you know, I'm in Peckham. It's only $4.99 to go to see. I saw Oppenheimer.
Didn't you walk out, though?
I did walk out early.
I couldn't tell, because you were tweeting, and I never believe your tweets. So I thought, did you really walk out because of the sex scene?
I didn't walk out because of the sex scene. I walked out. I walked out because it was 3 hours long, and I think at my age, I can only sit through 2 hours.
Should have gone to see Ninja Turtles.
And
someone just tells you what happens at the end.
And it had a happy ending. They blew.
That is outrageous. For broadcast balance, I have to say it wasn't happy. All right, let's finish on this one. The classic bedtime topic. It's white supremacy, Lewis.
It's white supremacy. B&Q apologizes because they one of their catalogs or one of the websites, they had a picture of a book called White Supremacy on top of a radiator. And I think maybe somebody put it there as a joke, because it wasn't really a book. It was like a joke book that they put there. And so basically they're saying that the radiator is racist. So Leo Curse, if you're listening to this.
I think this was a comeback to Wix, who went woke. So their B&Q were like, right, we're just going to go full white supremacy and then see how it plays out.
I couldn't tell if it... Oh, there we go, a lovely picture over there. I wasn't sure if it was like a woke book, like they were putting it there as a kind of, like white fragility, all these kind of woke books, or an actual, they were putting it there as a joke, like it was pro-white supremacy.
Or maybe they're making some kind of artsy joke. White is supreme, the color of white. It's just
it's a paint joke.
It's a paint joke. It isn't a decorating joke.
All right, thanks, guys. The show's pretty much over, but let's have another quick look at Saturday's front pages. So, The Telegraph has migrants taken off barge in Legionella scare. The Times goes with students to start term in hotels or bunk beds. That's a real story. The Express, doctors are striking to bring down Tories. The Daily Mail has trans row over women's wards. The Guardian goes with asylum barge evacuated as deadly bacteria found. And the Daily Star, rise of the Sani-psychos. That brilliant story we covered in detail earlier. So those were the front pages. That's it for tonight. Thanks to Jonathan and Lewis. Someone has written, not so much Lewis. I would never say that. Andrew Dawes back tomorrow at 11 with Cressida and Nicholas DeSanto. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then stay tuned for breakfast. But for now, it's good night, good morning, and God bless.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. I'm Greg Dewhurst, and looking at the weekend, could be summarised by sunshine and scattered showers, particularly heavy